Hi, I'm Noah Robischon. Welcome to the 29th Floor. I'm here today with Chuck Salter, senior writer for Fast Company, who also is a great fan of Serial, as am I. And we're talking today about whether Serial and the podcast explosion is really a trend, or whether this is a business that's going to continue to grow and come of age. And so I guess the question is, do you feel like this is the moment that podcasting has actually arrived, it's matured?
Matured, yes. Arrived, no. Because, I mean, podcasting's been around for 10 years, and it's really served these kind of niche audiences. But I think this is a milestone because, you know, here's a podcast that's getting like 2 million downloads per episode. You know, we know that that's on par with like some cable TV shows, and that's a big deal.
Well, I'll agree with you that it may have arrived from an audience standpoint, given the number of people that are looking at it. I think that the business behind it is going to have to catch up, because right now we're still seeing basically MailChimp, you know, it's like website design firms. I mean, we're not seeing like real mainstream advertisers here yet. And of course, nobody's paying for these things. So even though you might Kickstarter, you know, some of your cash toward it, which is doing great, but basically, like, we haven't seen it emerge to the point where you're seeing luxury, you know, The Gap isn't sponsoring Serial yet, right?
You could have some of these narrative podcasts becoming, you know, film deals or, you know, TV shows. It could spin off into other media as they start to pay attention to it and realize, oh, that story would totally work.
Or like Alex Blumberg did when he was at Planet Money, you could have t-shirts, you know, different kinds of products that come out of these that people would buy, that you could imagine a lot of people buying Serial t-shirts just for instance, and that actually could become a source of revenue that is, you know, sizable for such a small business if you're talking about a podcast.
Enough people have experienced it now for the first time and discovering the appeal of the medium. I feel like it leads them to discover other podcasts. So you start to wonder, well, what else is out there?
You know, Alex Blumberg is off starting Gimlet Media and you know, doing a podcast about his startup, and that's been successful.
It is another narrative. It's a Fast Company kind of narrative. You know, it's the story of an entrepreneur, Alex, trying to create a company with all the stumbles and the false starts and the hopes and everything. It's not a crime narrative, but it appeals for a lot of the same reasons as Serial.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd say if you're watching this and you're interested in startups and entrepreneurship, you definitely should be listening to Alex Blumberg's startup podcast, because that's really, you know, I mean, he talks to Chris Sacca. He's got a bunch of great stuff about what it's like to really start a business that is fascinating. So thank you so much for joining us today to talk about Serial, and thanks for watching 29th Floor. If you want to tell us about whether you think podcasting is a trend or whether you think this is the start of a really coming of age for podcasting, let us know. #29th Floor on Twitter. See you next week.